Welcome back, everyone, and I do hope you had a good lunch break. So for those of you just joining us, my name's Tara Lee, and I'm the account manager here at Charity Digital. For audio purposes, I am a 28-year-old white female, and I've got brunette hair. And today I'm wearing a navy blue Charity Digital t-shirt with gold earrings. So yeah, please, as we're getting started, do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box as we wait for others to join. And yeah, please let us know where you're joining from today. So I'll start off with a quick introduction to the session. So this afternoon's first session is going to be covering the topic of harnessing AI for fundraising, and it will be delivered by Christina Macchiarola, who is the Global Engagement Content Lead at for Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. So Christina will be looking at how charities can stay ahead of the curve with AI and how technology is impacting the fundraising landscape. So just before handing over to Christina, I wanted to just remind everybody of today's house rules. So as with all the other sessions today, the presentation will be recorded and will be uploaded to watch on demand at a later date. The slides and the resources will be made available to you by the end of the week. So if you missed anything at all, then please do not worry. Closed captions will also be available for today's session, and to enable these in the bottom of the Zoom window, you just need to click on the up arrow next to closed caption and then click on show subtitle. So during the session, please do ask lots of questions and we will address them at the end of the presentation from Christina. If there's a particular question in the Q&A section that you'd like to see answered, then please do upvote them and we make sure we prioritize those. But yeah, please just do make sure you use the Q&A section and not just the generic chat section. Otherwise your question may be missed. And finally, hopefully not, but if you do encounter any sound or image issues, then please do let us know in the chat and we'll make sure that we're onto it and getting it fixed, and hopefully things will be back to normal as soon as they can be. So without further ado, I will hand over to Christina.
Tara, thank you so much. And it is such a joy to be here with all of you today. As Tara mentioned, my name is Christina Macchiarola, and I'm the Global Engagement and Content Lead for Microsoft's Tech for Social Impact team. But the real reason that I am so thrilled to be here is that I spent my entire pre-Microsoft career working in nonprofits, largely those that served students and ensuring that they had access to arts and science education. And as a marketer in those organizations, I spent a lot of time with my fundraising colleagues because we were always collaborating on projects. And so as I think about how technology can benefit the sector as a whole, I always come back to my fundraising and marketing people. So before we get into the content of the session, folks may be asking, well, why is Microsoft even here today? And a lot of that is tied to our mission. Our goal is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. That's really lofty. That's really broad. And the truth of the matter is we're not able to accomplish that unless the organizations and the people driving those organizations have access to the same technology and tools that your big Fortune 500 companies have access to. And that's where Tech for Social Impact comes in. We are a division within the philanthropies group within Microsoft. We're responsible for providing grants and discounted software and services to organizations around the globe. Last year alone, we had $4.7 billion in grants and discounted software, and we worked with over 375,000 nonprofits globally to equip them with our solutions. So let's get into what we are going to talk about today. First up, it is after lunch. I know you can get a little sleepy after lunch, so I'm actually going to make you all do a little work. We're going to be doing some interactive things together. In the next two sections, we are going to be looking at some research on AI. As the person on our team focused on content development, I spend a lot of my time looking at surveys and studies and trying to get a pulse of where the wider community, both on the practitioner side and on the fundraising side, are coming together when it comes to their feelings about AI. And finally, we're then going to take all of that data, have it in the back of our minds, and talk through ways that we can start applying theory to practice. So first, get out your phones, bring out the tabs on your browser. If you have Edge, that works best. And we're going to have some interactive fun with the free version of Microsoft Copilot. So if you're going in the browser, copilot.microsoft.com. If you want to engage using your phone, you can just scan those QR codes right on the screen, whether you have an Android or Apple device, in order to play along. For those who might not be familiar with Copilot, Copilot is an AI assistant. It's built using large language models, and it responds in natural language. What does that mean in simple terms? You ask Copilot a question. Copilot gives you an answer depending upon the source of your data. Today, because we're using the free version, the source of our data is the larger internet. As somebody who works in a technology company, but does not necessarily self-identify as a tech person, I was an English literature major in undergrad. I feel very strong about that as part of my core. I couldn't be more thrilled that we're in a moment in time where we can now engage with technology through natural language. And a lot of times, the way that we are engaging with these AI assistants goes back to the who, what, where, when, why, how questions that we all learned in our younger grades when it comes to asking one another to get more and useful information. And so the way we engage with AI assistants is via a prompt or asking the AI assistant a question. So before we test it out for ourselves, let's talk about what actually makes a good prompt so that you can get the most information out of your AI tool. This is one of the biggest hurdles that I often encounter with our nonprofit customers who I'm talking to. They're like, I'm not getting the right answers. And I always say, are you asking the right questions? And so broadly speaking, we break down the right question into 4 parts. The first is, what is your goal? What is the form factor that you're trying to achieve? So in the sample that I have on the screen, I'm looking for a 3 to 5 article reading list. I want a place to get more information. What do I want the articles to be about? The second part of our questioning is getting the context. So in this instance, I'm based in New York. I need to get more information about nonprofit initiatives that are happening across the pond where all of you are. So contextually, I want to find information about nonprofit initiatives that are happening in London. Where do I want to get this information from? The internet is a very huge place. Some good, some not so good. So in my instance, I really want this search tool to pull from local publications so that I know there's a really community feel to where I'm getting the information from. And finally, I want to set expectations for how I want Copilot to display the work. So yes, I want a 3 to 5 article reading list, but I also want a summary of each article so that I know if it's worth my time going back into the tool. My biggest advice when it comes to actually playing around and testing with this technology is keep pivoting on your questions and see what happens. So ideally, we have a 20-second delay with what's on screen and what I'm saying and what you have in front of you. Hopefully by this point, you've scanned that QR code. I'm just going to put it back on the screen again in case you missed it, or you put copilot.microsoft.com into your browser. And with that, we're going to test out a fundraising scenario. So the producers at Charity Digital probably put this prompt in the chat box so that if you're using it in browser, you can just copy and paste. If you're doing it on your phone, try a variation of this. So I'm a fundraiser in this scenario who works for an organization called Pets for All. And we really want to send a thank you note to some of our first-time donors who are contributing to our fundraising campaign. And it's been a really busy day. Sometimes you have writer's block. It can help to have someone or something, in this instance, get that process started for you. So we're going to ask Copilot if it can help us create a draft of our thank you note. Now, the next screen that I'm going to show you is my view in what Copilot looks like, depending upon if you're in the totally free version of Copilot, if you have Microsoft 365, which includes Copilot on the internet, or if you've purchased our Copilot product that lives inside our app separately, this view might look a little bit different for you versus what I'm showing on the screen. So if you're like, that doesn't look the same, there are reasons for that, depending upon where you might already be in your AI assistant journey. So let's test out this prompt. So I'm asking Copilot. I drop the prompt in. We allow it to think a little bit. And I have a first draft. Now, what I always tell people after showcasing a demo like this is that the human is always in charge. If you don't like this draft, you get rid of the draft. Maybe you get rid of the draft by changing the language you used in the prompt. Maybe you say, this is enough information, I can take it from here as a writer. The goal is just to get you one step of the way there. And then you, as the human in charge, have the ability to tailor the AI to do what you want it to do. So this was our opportunity to test AI in practice. And I like grounding us in the practice because sometimes the theory can feel very separate from the actual tangible things that people are using AI tools for. So as I mentioned, I have the opportunity to look at a lot of research and sentiment analysis on what people are feeling about AI. And a study came out recently from the team that's behind the Fundraising.ai group. Some of you may have attended their conference in October, and they were looking very specifically at how donors think about AI. And the truth of the matter is donors are just a subset of the wider population. And so trends that we are saying in their perceptions are not all that different from what we're seeing in the world at large. So the first trend is AI familiarity and comfort. 82% and change of those who engaged in this surveying felt somewhat or very familiar with AI. Not surprisingly, we saw some variation depending upon the age of the participants. Those who skewed a little younger felt a little bit more comfortable with AIs versus those who were a little bit older. All of which to say 82% is recognizing that this is a huge part of the zeitgeist right now. And we're in a position where we have to reconcile, what does this mean for how your organization is run? Perceived downsides of AI. The survey participants had an opportunity to stack rank, what they saw as potential AI risks. And the sentiment is something that we're seeing across the board. Is there going to be a lack of human touch if AI assistants are used? Is there going to be a lack of job security? A lot of these trends are true whenever we see new technology on the scene. And so it's us as the users of these tools to ensure that the humans are staying in charge and that we're the ones controlling it rather than it controlling us. And that speaks largely to a lot of the perceived benefits that donors are saying that they feel AI is going to bring to the table. Fraud prevention in terms of using AI modeling to have a tighter grip on the security of an organization is one that bubbled to the top, in addition to improved operational efficiency. And operational efficiency really runs the gamut of different tasks that people in your organization can take on. And operational efficiency may be something just like the prompt exercise that we did, where someone is getting a head start on a rough draft. It might look like somebody who is using natural language to analyze some data that they have in Excel. And if you're like me, you don't love using pivot tables all the time, well, you can ask your AI assistant to build that modeling for you. So this is what we're seeing on the side of donors. The biggest takeaway, and I would say this is universally true for a lot of individuals who we talk to, is that people want to make sure that ethics and transparency are front and center, not only in how tools are built, but in how tools are deployed. And you, as key stakeholders in your organization, can play a huge part in this as you think about if and when you are going to start layering AI into your practices. You make those choices in one, deciding on the AI systems and tools that you're going to bring in-house. If you're an organization that is actually building your AI, you're going to be thinking about how are you building your own systems so that there's a lack of bias in them. You're also going to be thinking about how are you communicating the ethics and transparency of this to your larger community. Many nonprofits have privacy regulations in place and privacy policies that are publicly available. How does AI fit into that in terms of data usage and how your organization is communicating those policies to your constituents? If you have a privacy policy in place, that may be a location where you can actually expand on that to ensure that the way that you are leveraging these new tools stays front and center. So we just talked about what the recipients of your activities are thinking about, but how are practitioners leveraging AI every day? And so to this, we have swaths of data to choose from. Within Microsoft, we have thousands of people leveraging our AI technology every day. We also have organizations who we've partnered with who have done surveying with nonprofits specifically on how they are leveraging AI tools. And across the board, a few different trends are emerging. So first, one of the large studies that Microsoft has done is something called the Work Trend Index. We surveyed 31,000 people over 31 countries to get their pulse on where they think AI is useful. And if they are among the people who are using AI, is it saving them any time and budget? And common threads emerge to the top. The first is many of the employees that we spoke to globally feel like they lack the time and energy to do their jobs. There's a lot of demands on us every day. And as a result of that, they're 3.5 times more likely to struggle with strategic thinking. And so as leaders of these organizations are starting to consider how to implement AI, they're thinking about it in ways that can take the grunt work off people's plates so that they can spend time doing more human tasks, the strategic thinking. And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing that a lot of employees, 70% in this instance of those who were surveyed, are willing to delegate tasks to AI, thus addressing leaders' concerns that there might be a lack of innovations in their organizations. When we dug down a little deeper, we looked at how organizations were using our Microsoft 365 Copilot product. Specifically, that's the version of Copilot that lives within applications that everyone tends to use daily: Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams. And what we were finding is that folks were using the AI assistant to cut down on time-intensive, but not necessarily brain-intensive tasks. So if they missed a meeting, they were able to download a transcript from the meeting and get main talking points from it. On average, that was saving people about 32 minutes. Using AI in search helped save 6 minutes across the board because they can ask the AI assistant to find something rather than hunting and pecking through folders. And then just as we experienced all together, people were able to spend less time drafting initial emails and work. We've also done additional studies that looked at how nonprofits are able to augment their staff time using AI assistants across the board. So the first, very common and very in line with data that we experienced in the Work Trend Index, is that 47% of nonprofits who we spoke to are already starting to automate administrative tasks, taking notes in meetings so that it's up to the AI assistant rather than having that fall on an individual person, summarizing emails, things that just take up time in day-to-day. We're also seeing nonprofits starting to use AI assistants in order to offer instant support. So 31% of those who we surveyed indicated that they're actually using AI assistants to maybe have a chatbot on their website to answer early questions before sending a constituent, whether it's a donor or a volunteer or somebody in the larger community, off to a human for deeper answers. It's just a layer of support so that those who have to engage in really deep conversations and meaningful conversations with the constituents don't have to spend as much time with something that could be easily found on the website. And finally, we're seeing a lot of AI use cases when it comes to data management, data visualization, and data analysis. So I know in my time working in nonprofits, I was wearing a lot of hats, and I felt oftentimes really pulled between having to be a creative marketer, working with my fundraising colleagues, trying to figure out the next best steps for a campaign, but also being the person who had to ingest and analyze all of the data so that I could make those decisions. Having something that could provide summaries for me would have been really helpful for me back then. And we're seeing these time savings translate into dollar value. So IDC ran some studies and found that every dollar that was invested in AI realized an average return of about $3.50, and then it took about 14 months to see these returns. Most recently, one of our teams collaborated with Forrester, and Forrester runs multiple total economic impact studies across products, across organizations. And they specifically interviewed organizations globally, nonprofits, to get a sense of what time savings could do for larger savings and larger output. Based on how the AI tools have been used, most relevant to fundraisers, they're anticipating an increase in fundraising output of up to 20% in 3 years. And that's because fundraisers are going to have more time to spend developing meaningful relationships with donors rather than focused on their administrative tasks. So we just spent a lot of time talking about a heck of a lot of theory, a lot of numbers. The punchline of all of this is AI is here. People are starting to use it. How do you use it effectively? And a conversation that I find myself in a lot, one with our customers at Microsoft, two with my personal community of organizations that I used to work for, are people asking me, Christina, my board is coming to me and they're telling me that they need an AI plan from us. What am I supposed to do? I have to prep this one slide on my AI plan for the next board meeting. And to that, I would say, do you have the opportunity to take a step back and bring your board along with you in the process? AI adoption is a journey. You're not going to find the answer on one slide. And as we think about AI adoption for organization, it falls into a number of steps. The first is awareness and education. Everything in the box we're going to dive into in later slides. Second is going through your use cases and finding out if AI can actually solve a problem that you have. It's not worth it to have AI for AI's sake. You should be thinking about it in terms of what can I do to simplify my day-to-day work. Next, you're going to look at your AI tool options. Maybe you'll pilot something, test with safe data. We say this is step 4. This step tends to run in parallel with a lot of the steps that we're also seeing. You need to be thinking about the security, compliance, privacy, and ethics of what you're putting in place, because we know it's top of mind for donors, and it's going to be top of mind for your staff too. Then once you get into the pilot mode, you can start monitoring how the AI performs, and then it's a virtuous cycle. You learn, you tweak, you learn, you tweak, you learn, you tweak. So because we are in a very educational session and day where I know AI has been a hot topic, let's focus on the first 4 steps and how you can start thinking about AI implementation in your organization. So step 1 is awareness and education. You're here, you're doing step 1. That's amazing. There are so many AI tools and resources out there. It's almost overwhelming at this point, and there's going to be lots of different points of view. Charity Digital is an amazing partner. They have wonderful resources. Tap into them. Awareness and education can also be tapping into other nonprofits who are starting to embark on this journey. Talk to them, learn about their user stories, talk about the pitfalls that they're having. If you're like me and you're more of a solo learner, you like getting into the numbers and the details and learning how AI works behind the scenes, there are lots of resources on LinkedIn and other platforms within the Microsoft space. If you're interested in learning not just about how AI appears in our tools, but like broader ethical questions around AI and how other organizations are thinking about it, we have a tool called the AI Skills Navigator, which is available at aka.ms/AI Skills Navigator, where you can actually chat with an AI tool that we have. And based on responses, you can find something that's best for you. Next, as we get ready to wrap up in the next couple minutes, start thinking about your AI why. What are situations and tasks where AI can benefit you? On this slide, we have common jobs that we see organizations leveraging AI for. Do any of these resonate with you? And to that end, are there specific tasks which are department agnostic that may resonate with you as well, like summarizing a meeting, getting ideas? This deck is going to be available after the fact. I'm showing this slide just for the purposes of all of the hyperlinks that are available on it. Here, you can actually click in and see a series of prompts that are applicable to different fundraising AI use cases. So if you want to write a grant, what are prompts that you can leverage and what tools are they available in for your AI assistant to help you with that? If you want to recognize donors in your database, how can AI help with that? So just some examples for you as a leave behind. Step 3, choosing AI tools and testing them with safe data. On the screen, these are Microsoft's principles for how we build responsible AI tools. Lots of providers have principles like these. Check to see what their offices of responsible AI are doing as you're doing your tool assessment, and make sure that those principles are aligning with what you have. And finally, security, privacy, and ethics. AI is not something that can be done alone. It's not just on the fundraising team. It's also on AI. It's on your IT teams. It's on your marketing team. It's a group effort. And using that group beyond IT is how you're going to be able to make decisions to make sure all of your respective departments' constituents' needs are met. If you need some help figuring out how to map this out for your board, we have a really highly recommended tool. Afua Bruce, who is a lecturer at Carnegie Mellon, has put together an AI governance frameworks for nonprofits. It's a series of 6 modules that you can download, plus worksheets, so that you can have these conversations with your teams. So, final thoughts. Human first approach always as you're engaging with your fellow constituents and with one another. Make sure that data and privacy is always at the top of your conversations, because we know that matters to donors. Be transparent once you develop those policies. Showcase to your board and community how AI is helping you increase your impact, and make sure that the wider team is always part of the conversation, so that you're allaying any kind of workforce concerns that you have. Last slide, feel free to grab these URLs. These are just some of the tools that I talked about, and I know it's time to move on to audience questions, Tara.
Yeah. Hi, Christina. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I realized my camera wasn't visible. Thank you so much, Christina. That was really, really interesting, and so well delivered. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll get started with some questions, as you said, from the audience. So the first one that I can see has been upvoted a few times and people are keen for an answer on is, oh, sorry, yeah. What tips do you have for using AI as a charity, and what are things that we should never use AI for or include in prompts for AI?
Okay, I love that question. So in terms of use cases for your charity, I like bringing a group of people to the table and saying, what are the things that take the most time out of my day, but require the least amount of active thinking? So is that again, in my case, not to harp on my problems with Excel, and I work for Microsoft, but I don't like making pivot tables. I have trouble visualizing data. Start with your pain points, because AI is about solving problems. So if you're a team that is strapped, maybe you only have one grant writer on the team, and there's no hope that you're going to be adding additional staff, can you use AI to help that person start making their first drafts? If you don't have a data analyst and data analysis is shared, can you leverage AI in order to analyze your data in Excel or your CRM? So my first tip is start with your pain points. And then from there, map out the scenarios that you commonly live and breathe around those pain points. What does your day look like? And again, you can, this presentation, there's a bunch of, we go to the very end of it, slides that I did not show, that you all will have access to after the fact, are different instances of how you can ask, it is specific to our Microsoft tools, but how you can ask our tools using AI assistants particular questions to get to the heart of common pain points that folks see. Don't have an AI plan just because your board is asking you for an AI plan. Start with what you think your real need is and go from there. In terms of things to avoid, Tara, I believe that was part 2 of your question. At the very beginning, avoid situations that you're dealing with a lot of PII, or personal identifiable information. You want to make sure that you've built a foundation, and are buying into tools that have security built in. A lot of the completely free tools that we call it bring your own AI, that a lot of people may just be taking advantage of on the internet separately, that doesn't have the same sort of security controls. So unless you as a wider team have made the choice to purchase a form of AI that has those privacy and security controls built in, don't lead with personal identifiable information until you know you can do it in a way that's secure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christina. That was really, really insightful. I think we've probably got time for one more question, because we need to wrap up around 2:10. So yeah, the next question is also a popular one, and it's, is Copilot available to charities registered for the 10 free licenses of Office 365? And if so, how much does it cost?
So that is a fantastic question, because that's one that I can give you a very easy answer to. So when we say Copilot, we're actually talking about a few different products. So I'm going to break out those product versions for you. If you are already taking advantage of your grant, yes, take advantage of our grants. Get the tools for free. If you are using that free seats of Business Premium, you have access to Microsoft Copilot on the web. That's the experience that we all just tried together. The difference is, because you have already purchased a Microsoft Business Premium license, that search on the web is encrypted. So that search on the web is secure versus the completely free version of it. Now, if you want to use the AI assistant within your apps, so that's opening up Word, clicking on the Copilot icon and asking Word a question, so that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, and Outlook. In that instance, there is an extra fee. We just announced 6 days ago that there is a 15% off discount for nonprofits. So that price for that add-on to your Business Premium is $25.50 USD per user, per month, per annual billing cycle.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christina, again. It's been fantastic. It's been a pleasure having you with us. I am afraid that's all we have time for this session. So yeah, as a reminder to everybody who's joined us, the session will be recorded and the slides and other resources will be made available to you by the end of the week. So if you've missed something, then please do not worry. The next session in Stream 1 will be starting shortly, and it's going to be another panel discussion sponsored by our friends at Emma Live, and it will be on the evolution of event fundraising. So please do join us for that session. We'd love to have you there, or alternatively, feel free to head back over to the agenda and check out what's going on in Stream 2. So yeah, thank you so much and take care, everyone.
Thank you.